Hey everybody!
Hey, what's up, man?
Welcome back to the show. This is the Chorizo Bros coming at you today. We are joined by some returning bros. Thank you so much, you guys, for coming in today.
100%, absolutely.
We got Brandon over here. We got Arry over here. You guys want to let us know what the last project you joined us on was?
100%, yeah. I did Dolores Claiborne with you.
Yeah.
We did the movie, the book, and with your friend Jeremy, we did the audiobook as well.
Yeah, we knocked it all out. Yeah.
100%.
Cool. What did you join us on last time?
The Green Book last time we did with Josh. Yeah, that one was pretty good.
Yeah.
And then I've gone on a...
You've been on
a
few times.
before.
So we're going to keep doing these.
Sounds good.
I'm forcing you to do more.
Yeah, I'm going to do more. I'm going to do more. Yeah.
All right, guys. We always have a lot of fun, and I really do appreciate you guys coming out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And knocking this out with me. I know
It's
it's kind
always
of it's a little bit of work for us to get our schedules to work. I really appreciate you guys coming out. So thanks a lot.
Hey,
our pleasure.
So we're gonna do the very beginning of the show like we normally do for this. We're gonna do a little kind of 30-second 5-star review where we all fall on it. And then after that, we're going to go deep into this discussion as though you know what this book is. So that way, if we spoil things, it doesn't really matter. We want to really just kind of talk about all the things, and we don't want to spoil anything for you. So that's kind of how we're going to do it. Today, we're going to be talking about James by Percival Everett. Before we do our review, I did want to kind of go over a little bit about what the concept is here for this book and whether or not it's going to interest you at all. But what it is, it's recontextualizing the Huckleberry Finn story, and we're getting the perspective of the character Jim. And that's the concept here. If that sounds interesting at all, you should check it out. Which one of you guys wants to start off with the review?
I'll start.
Yeah.
Quick review. I love the book. Honestly, for me, it was a 5 out of 5. This book has been highly rated the last year in 2024. Has won many awards. It's a Pulitzer Prize finalist. If you're reading books and you're in the scene, you're going to know that it's highly rated. I loved it. There was no flaws in it for me, personally. Seeing that it was a reimagining of Huckleberry Finn, which was written almost 150 years prior to what this book was written. Really cool seeing a fresh perspective on the Huck Finn story written from one of the main characters' point of views. 5 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was amazing read. This is like one of the best picks, I think. This is a book that I would just die to see as a film or as a TV series.
100% agree.
This is a modern take, like you said, on the Huckleberry Finn, which is right here. This is a beautiful copy of the Huckleberry Finn.
Lovely cover.
Lovely cover.
Lovely.
Lovely. But this is like action-packed. It is funny.
It's really funny.
It reads like, I want to say like almost like Django or like Inglourious Basterds. It's so action-packed. It's a redemption, revenge story.
Yeah, there's nothing boring about it.
Yeah,
it
nothing boring about
super
it.
Super fast.
It reads super fast. The audiobook, if you have time to do it, that's also a really quick audiobook to go through, and it is well worth it. I would rank it really high up in my roster of modern books. I mean, it's 2024. This is
it's fairly
crazy.
Fairly new.
How new. I would not be surprised in a couple of years that this is directly put into some sort of media, other form of media.
100%
like this
agreed.
is so
I definitely
good,
see that happening.
and it just won a prize, and there's a reason for it. It is dig into it. It is definitely worth it.
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
Cool. Yeah. I'm not on board 100% with your guys' assessment of this. I'm still going to rank this very high. I'm going to go for out of 5, a 4.75. So almost a perfect book for me. I think in order to earn a 5-star rating, there has to be like very minimal, if any, criticisms. Nothing's perfect, but we do the best we can. And I had some questions about the choices that this writer made for this story that make me wonder if I would have liked this better if he'd made some drastic changes. Yeah. But I had a hell of a lot of fun with this book.
Oh, likewise.
It is witty, it is funny, it is topical. I think that he's using this clearly as an examination of the Black experience back then, but also kind of talking about stuff that matters now.
Yeah.
And it's, not having the Black perspective, getting an insight is really interesting, and it's what really works for this book.
Yeah.
It's the most interesting part of it, not just the multiverse kind of concept of using that. It really did kind of let me get a peek into how this author thinks and what he's trying to say through this kind of tale. So I had a lot of fun. Almost a perfect thing for me. And with that being said, I think we all rated it very high. I think if you're interested in books, if you like the Huck story and Tom Sawyer story from back in the day, I think this is going to be a really fun read for you guys.
Even as a standalone, just like you mentioned earlier, you don't even have to have the Tom Sawyer, Huck Finn background to enjoy this book.
No.
The book by itself, honestly, if you read it as a standalone, it's just as enjoyable.
Aside you don't really need
Tom
it.
Sawyer,
you don't really need it. It helps, but
it's good to have it there, but you can read it as standalone, and it's just as enjoyable.
Yeah, for sure. So, we're going to go on full spoilers. There was one thing I wanted to mention before we started getting into the nitty-gritty, and it was just something I happen to have copies of, so I thought that was kind of fun. So, there is a parallel between the concept of Huckleberry Finn and James with Beowulf and Grendel. So, Grendel is a monster that Beowulf fights, or he's like the son of one of the monsters that Beowulf... I don't know, there's some wishy-washy stuff there. I don't really remember it that much. But it's a modern retelling of a different character, a different perspective in the Beowulf fable. No, you don't have to. It's fine. Just I'll pop a visual up here if it's not seen on camera. So I thought that was kind of cool. I was like, all right, so there's this kind of classic tale that someone modernizes and gives us a different perspective of, makes you think about it a little bit differently. And it was hard to unsee once I saw that, but then I realized. And I don't know how aware Mr. Everett was on this. Someone had already done another book in the Huckleberry Finn Tom Sawyer universe, modernizing and recontextualizing the story through another character's perspective. And this book and this character is Becky Thatcher, the girlfriend of Tom Sawyer. Yeah. So somebody else, and I'll have to make a note here because I didn't write it down here, but the book is called Becky, The Life and Loves of Becky Thatcher. And it's from the perspective of Becky Thatcher. And I thought that was kind of cool. And I don't know how aware he was of this. I don't know that it matters. But I thought it was just interesting that someone else did that already. And no, it didn't. It's not going to win any awards like this one does. No, I through a little bit of research, I found this out. I might have, and I might still. Had I known about it earlier, I just didn't.
I wonder what the writing style is on that one.
I think it's a romance.
Okay.
I don't know, but I think it's more so like taking a character that you might be aware of already and being like, oh, I'm just going to have some fun with it.
Right
on. Which is what I think it is. I don't know. I didn't rate it. But I'm like 90% certain it's a romance.
Right. The only reason I bring that up is because I'm sure we're going to get into it, but like Twain's style versus how he wrote Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn versus how Percival wrote James is very different. So if this retelling of Becky, right?
Yeah, it's called Becky, yeah.
Becky, right? Mm-hmm. If this retelling of Becky is from a modern day author, then it might have a different spin towards...
there's going to be a more feminist twist to it. Right. I think it's going to make her seem more, like stronger in some way. I'm sure it's an exercise in...
She does. It's interesting. So knowing that, I didn't know that she had a James type of story written about her. Right?
Yeah.
Like a separate... I didn't know that. With that being said, she does commit an act in Tom Sawyer.
Yeah.
Where it's solely her, right? I wonder how that's perceived by her point of view. It's her stealing a textbook from her teacher's
and he takes the fall for it, right?
Yeah, and it's an anatomy textbook. So it's some taboo type of shit,
right?
Because it's got naked pictures and shit in there,
right?
Right. It's an anatomy textbook that children shouldn't be seeing, but she ended up taking it and observing it. So I wonder how that is.
Yeah,
I wonder if that's even brought up.
Yeah. Oh, I can almost guarantee you it is.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're not here to talk about.
I wonder
we're not here to talk
how
about
this-
Becky here tonight.
We're not here.
We're not here to talk about Becky. We love you, but we're not. We're here for James.
Becky's cool.
Becky's cool. Yeah. I know you brought some notes there. You did on your on the last one that you did with us, and I kind of really appreciated that you went out of your way to find some notes for us. So, you got any questions or anything interesting we can start the conversation with?
Yeah, these questions are a little more open ended.
Yeah.
Compared to what I did for Dolores Claiborne, which is a little more closed. But first question, I mean, this is very open ended. Why do you guys think Percival Everett decided to name the book James as opposed to anything else? He could have named this book anything, quite honestly. Why James?
I think the whole point of the book was him from being, like you said, just N-word Jim to becoming a full-fledged person. This was about humanizing him. Like the whole writing style was to humanize him. Him and his family being educated, being not perceived as inhuman, as in the book, like you said, it's satirical for Huckleberry Finn. It's trying to, put into retrospect the Civil War, put into, a child's perspective, an innocent person, trying to almost sway the book. Huckleberry Finn was put in satire to kind of sway Southerners, white Southerners in Mark Twain's eyes, to slightly in a child's eyes. If you just look at a child's eyes, if you look back as a child, float down the river, escaping trouble as a child with a black person, you'll realize they're more, you have more similarities. But it was so, so light in that it was so trying to touch lightly on the Southern, because he was not really, he was writing just to write, but he wasn't, writing for, I'm going to write a nice piece for the Northerners who are going to love this up. He was trying to still incorporate a lot of Southern. Yeah. Honestly, Northerners trying to read this, they're like, how the hell do people talk down there? They're like, this honestly makes more sense.
Oh, this got a lot of shit for the way it's written.
Yeah,
Mark Twain would sound more, make sense to a Southerner who's more used to actually seeing slavery. But James is a humanization of Jim. He becomes James. I don't want to give away because I want to talk about some more stuff later, but his final proclamation of him as James, I think is a big point.
Taking his name back.
Taking his name.
His individualism. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought too.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of an easy layup for us. I think it was kind of an easy one for us to go to, and just to lengthen it a little bit, because this book, I feel like the main theme is about language. The whole thing. The whole thing
starts off with
the whole thing is language.
He talks about slipping up with language. He's like, I've never let that happen. He's like, oh my gosh, until he's the revelations that happen later on. Especially
we can talk spoilers.
Especially with
we're in spoilers, guys.
Yeah, especially with Huck.
When he drops the act.
Yeah, when he tells him that he's his dad. Or
we're gonna start off with that.
Yeah.
Let's start off with that. Why not?
Yeah, that's.
Well, he full on, he pulls the.
And there's foreshadowing for that. That's crazy.
There's a lot of foreshadowing for it.
Well, I don't know when you're gonna drop this on YouTube, but it is. We are filming this on May the 4th, so, yep. Maybe James pulled the ultimate Jedi mindfuck on Huck, because there is a point where Huck thinks he is an N-word.
Well, I don't know that. Yeah, he does ask.
In his 1880s point of view.
Right.
1830s, excuse me. 1830s point of view mind. He legitimately feels like, oh my God, am I one of you? Because he's connected so much with.
Well, it's not that he's connected.
James.
it's kind of clear that James is his father.
Yeah.
Yeah, the widow's peak.
It's not just the widow's peak's brought
the
up.
hate from his dad.
The hate from his dad.
They're-
Multiple characters go, does he know? Like there's a character, I don't remember which
Yeah,
character it was.
they treat
He's like,
him.
how, like,
they
what's your
treat
deal
him
with
like a pecker would. They say they. Well, that's what actually another slave calls him.
Yeah.
Calls him a pecker wood, but like. James defends him because he's like, actually, that's my son. He's like, he's not that bad. And Huck's like, well, you're not like a little bit darker than me. And James is like, well,
there's a lot of conversation, like I mentioned before, that this is using this as a lens through the modern Black perspective, the Black experience now, and I think that there is. Even now, again, this is hard for somebody who's not Black to kind of harp on about, but there is this sort of thing with them comparing their darkness to somebody else. In the Black community, there's like this thing where, if you're light-skinned, there's certain things thought about you that make you not as Black as somebody else, or they have to have that conversation in their culture.
Sure.
And that's kind of like what this is kind of saying a little bit in some scenes. There's a lot of... This whole thing is examinations of race relations.
Do you remember them specifically saying in Huckleberry Finn the color tone of Jim or James?
Like how he's lighter skinned?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I don't like. I think
but
that's
it makes more sense to use, if you're gonna throw in that twist of him and Huck to be related.
Oh yes, to be
a light skinned.
Yes, but definitely it also plays into him escaping and going to the minstrel shows and
That was the funniest, dude.
That show was wild.
I found that
was
like, it
crazy.
was definitely sad. It was definitely had that poignancy, but that was the funniest part of the book, I thought.
Yeah,
was getting a Black man to pretend to be a white man to pretend to be a Black man.
Yeah,
the minstrels.
Yeah, the minstrels. I was like, dude, that's such a fucking. That's like a skit.
The beginning.
That's historically a thing too.
Are they all the same?
The minstrel shows are you saying having Black people in minstrel shows?
Yes, that's a thing. I've
never heard of that, dude.
So, dude, part of the historical notes, he talks to Daniel Decatur Emmett in the book, and Daniel Emmett.
That's how they get the songs, right?
That's how they get minstrels for the South. Like
he was a Black guy.
No, he's a white dude.
No,
but he organized black-faced minstrels.
Okay, you misunderstood me because you're. I think you think I didn't know that minstrels were a thing. I'm saying the what's funny is that they were getting a Black guy to pretend to be a white guy to pretend to be a Black guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, that's the part that's funny to me. Not the fact that minstrel
shows
were a thing. I'm very aware that was a thing.
Right, okay, my bad. My bad.
Yeah. That's... I'm very aware.
Oh,
I'm very aware of Eminem.
There's an All in the Family episode of minstrel shows, and it is terrible as you think.
No, I can imagine.
I mean, it's All in the Family, but...
That part, yes, yes. Minstrel shows is crazy. It's crazy that concept.
No, but the beginning part of the songs,
and they're celebrated. They're celebrated,
like because they're all the same, right? All these books they start up with the songs of the minstrels.
Yeah,
they are.
Yeah. And that's what I literally thought it was when I was reading at first. I was like, this is so like, it's a little harder to read.
Yeah.
And I was like, is this a song?
Yeah.
And I'm like, at first I thought it was a poem. And I'm like, but this reads even more. It reads like you would... You're
talking about the opening...
Like you would perform it. Yeah, like you would
Mm-hmm.
perform these. Like you wouldn't just... This isn't just something to read because who's reading these? These are like...
No, they're actually like to rhythm.
Yeah, these are like lines for a performance, like a play.
Yeah.
Because
You're talking about
having
the opening pages of the book?
Yeah, having read plays and having read stanzas, and that's exactly how it reads. It reads like, and I literally had to get to that point where I'm like,
those
are the songs.
Show. Yeah.
No, I'm like, those are the beginning of the book.
It's
those are the songs. Mm-hmm. Those are probably the songs from that he stole.
The minstrels.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it were. Yeah, no, that was the funniest. I mean, there's a lot of like randomly funny things in here. But that was the part I was like, God, the irony is just
Do you think the whole Duke
funny.
and could have been taken out?
Yeah. Honestly, in Huck, it's my least favorite part.
It is my least favorite part because
I think it's everybody's.
Agreed.
I don't think anybody likes the Duke and
I feel it really drags on in
Huck.
In both of them.
Yeah.
I think it drags
on.
Well,
because it has to because it's a big part of it.
It is,
the Huck
but
story.
It's like...
I'll say it's a major
I'm with
major
you.
act in the book.
That's part of the reason this isn't a 5 for me, by the way.
But he's going so off course, he could just change it up. He could completely change it up. Because he changes the ending. He changes so many massive things.
Yeah.
He honestly could have changed that, which is the most derailing from their adventure, most boring, most minimizing of Huck and Jim's
dynamic
in that, because
you're right, because you're the worst part of the book,
so focused on these people who they are just the shittiest white people that are gonna take advantage of other shitty white people and of even the people the people that they see as their a runaway slave. These are the worst of the worst, these guys. And they're like, yeah, you're with us. And then they're about to flip. They're gonna sell him perpetually.
Oh yeah.
They're the shittiest people. But if he has James start killing slave owners, I think it would have been so satisfying. I just wish if they make it into a series. Go ahead.
You want Quentin Tarantino to make James?
No, be that your last film.
Dude, can you imagine?
But if they do that,
he's not afraid of using the N-word.
Kill the Duke. Kill the fucking
Talk about shitty people. How about the two families that are in constant struggle? The two white families. It's brought up in Huck Finn. It's where Huck kind of grooms himself with a chick.
Oh, and he pretends he dresses up as a girl.
Kind of, sort of ish. I think it's around the same time.
Oh, is it?
But it's I forget the names of the two families, but it's two families that are always in constant struggle. It ends up in a gun battle between the two families.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And it's brought up in James as well, and it's brought up in Huck Finn, but it's just fucking silly white people.
Sounds like the Hatfields and the McCoys.
I think that was that was the vibe it was going for, right?
Yeah.
Kind of.
I forget the names of the two families in the book, but it's a major part in Huck Finn. It's a major part in James as well, but it alludes to just the silliness of families trying to have pride going against each other. It's wild.
Yeah. I
saw a few interviews because I was like, I've never heard of this guy before. I read James, and I was like, he apparently he's pretty prolific as a writer. He's written several books, none of which I've read, but I am interested in reading more of his books. So I was like, I gotta see this guy, especially since the book just came out very recently. So I was like, I gotta look at him. I gotta look at him, see him talk, and see what he's about. And he's very interesting. Just his demeanor, he's got this kind of attitude that I found compelling to watch in interviews. He seems to sort of be a little bit he's almost always coming up with a joke. So he's trying to be a little bit ahead of you in the conversation so he can have a zinger or just say something that's funny, and he says it in a dry way. It's really hard to explain. You got to see. Have you seen him talk at all?
Interviews? No.
So somebody asked him hey, how did you come up with the idea to do Huck Finn through Jim's perspective? And he was like, I was playing tennis and I accidentally hit a ball out of bounds. And when I was walking over to get the ball, I thought, no one's ever told that story before. And it got the entire audience to laugh because he didn't deliver it with humor. He delivered it straight, and it was so fucking funny. When I was watching, I was like, that's brilliant. Anyway, he's just he's randomly funny. He had a crow that he called Jim Crow.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's pictures
crazy.
of him with a crow on his shoulder, and he was I would peck at the keyboard, so I kind of gave him the a little bit of the credit for writing this book. He's just kind of funny and weird. He doesn't like people. They'd say that he barely goes out and he only talks to people or does interviews when it's in his contract to do it. He would prefer not to at all.
Really?
But he's a big animal lover. He's a fisherman. He makes his own, like, he does, like, fly fishing.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh. And I was like, oh, okay, it's funny because I saw that after I read it, and then I was like, oh, yeah, they bring up fishing constantly in this.
Yeah, several.
They're having to survive on berries and fish and stuff. And I was like, that makes sense. So this guy's really interesting.
His view in this book on religion is interesting.
Yeah, Jim's an
also.
atheist, which I found surprising. Let's talk about that.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
Jim
that.
or the author?
Well, the author obviously would be.
I don't know. I didn't dive that into.
I don't know.
But from Jim's perspective, well, he cleans it up, but he also does say that he doesn't believe in a god. But he's like,
he's like, would you?
He's like, well, not any white god. He's like, not what they think. He's like,
he's pretty real, man.
He's like
pretty real too.
He's like, maybe there is. He's like, he's even uncertain, but he's like, not what they say there is. He's like, because they're.
I mean, is it not fair? Is it not fair to say that he can? How can that guy not lose his faith?
Yeah.
No.
Like, yeah. It is, but it's also crazy because you look at devout faith in and lack of faith in. It's a very like off topic, but kind of going.
No, it's definitely not off topic.
No,
this is a big part of Jim's character.
But like in countries of absolute oppression, of absolute poverty, and I would say like not even oppression also, but just like suppression, like I don't want to say maybe through the religion, maybe through the societies. I don't want to say directly.
That's like Saudi Arabia.
Directly through the religions, but like you see it how devout people are in these extremely impoverished nations, and they're like extremely devout. You look at nations like America, Europe, and their devotion just goes, down. And for slaves, there was a big part of going into Christianity because that was kind of like a salvation. That was
like a last resort.
Yeah, a reason. And like he says,
it'll get better.
We're working towards this end goal of salvation that they keep telling us we're going to get, but that they don't have to face the repercussions, but we do. And it's crazy because like a lot of slaves found not only reading and like literature through the only source pretty much the slave masters would give them was through the Bible,
right?
But that was kind of their salvation and the only sense that they would.
So what do you think it means that Jim
blind faith
resists
is
that?
I think he's writing his own destiny like that slave that gives him the pencil. He's choosing his own destiny. He was already doing that from the beginning by stealing the books and like by reading and becoming someone who was breaking the bounds, and he was questioning everything. He says at one point, I think, I don't know, thinking about what's for him, like what's his life. I think when he talks with Finn when they get to the first part of the island or something, or I'm trying to remember, but he questions himself at one point, and he's developing himself, so he's questioning himself, and he questions like what is everything that's given to him, like what is escaping. I know what escapee gets. He's like, what is living through this? He's constantly finding himself, and I think that religion part is a really interesting part of his character, because he's very atheist, and then also he kind of goes back. He's like, well, maybe not what they say it is. He's like, but anyways, it's not good. Like he says, whatever they say is not good, and this religion thing isn't good. But also, maybe there is a God, but like not the white guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting part of his character.
Yeah, it's touched on in the original text also in The Adventures of Huck Finn. There's a part where they're talking about the stars, and Huck is kind of like, do you think that God put him there, or do you think they just appeared? They just kind of happened, and that doesn't sound like much now, but back then that was a really like that would have been a very controversial statement to be like, oh, it wasn't. You don't think it wasn't God? That's crazy that you would say that. So yeah, I found that to be very interesting,
and it's interesting that James keeps using that. He tells his children and he tells other slaves. He's like, well, as long as you tell the white people that about religion, about Jesus, and about oh Lord and all this, they're fine. He's like, you tell them about religion, you tell them, oh, it's this. He even plays into that. He's like, it's almost like...
There's a theme throughout the book, as long as you spin it towards any way to where your master or the white person will accept it, it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's an example earlier in the book where James is grooming his kids on if there's a fire going on randomly, how you would explain that to your master.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that you discovered the fire. It's worded to where there's a fire over there, but you found out about it.
Yeah, to
right?
give them the credit.
Give them the credit about
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A certain way of whitewashing.
Yeah. Everything was, he taught his children or he talked with other people. He's like, yeah, don't not laugh in front of people. But that religious thing of him, like, whenever they, the white people, I guess, couldn't understand something or were like, throw that at him. It was almost like he thought that him being more educated in the book, it is really funny. It's also like I say, like a Django, like badass, like the.
Well, that doesn't. Part doesn't come. That doesn't happen until the end. It was a jarring.
It was
part of the reason I'm not. It's not a 5 for me.
Oh, the very end twist.
I feel a little negatively towards it.
He does kill someone before he kills the.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I liked.
Do you feel that he should have done that earlier? Or he should have just.
No, I think that James
should have never killed anybody.
I think that James should be an intellectual hero.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like intellectually,
not necessarily a martyr.
Making him a badass action hero that does the Django Unchained or like the Tarantino thing.
Mm-hmm.
It takes away from something. It's instead of him, just being. I don't know. I wanted him to win in a smarter way. I didn't want him to.
Well,
He was
always smarter.
It was one of the most
entertaining things.
Sure, right, but then
because he constantly was
right, but it
was smart enough to outwit any random white person that was interacting with him to make him perceive that he was much less
emotionally. I understand
that's honestly what makes the book a 5 out of 5 for me. It's just
emotionally. I understand the ending. I understand the desire and probably the exploration. Again, this is an exploration.
He's constantly playing
race stuff.
Yeah.
He's constantly playing his crowd.
Yeah, he's constantly.
Yeah, he's very. It's a lot of social engineering. It's a lot of him knowing
the revert. Honestly, it's like
right, but then you take a clever character like that that can do that on a constant basis, and then you just make them into.
It's like a remarkable
Rambo type at the end was fucking silly to me.
Okay.
Now I understand again the emotional.
How many people did he kill?
2. 3. I was gonna say 2. 3. Yeah. Not Thatcher. He ties Thatcher to a tree, right?
Yeah, he leaves Thatcher alone.
Well, he goes and kills
Hopkins.
He goes to the breeding plantation.
And then he kills.
Yeah, but then okay, and then the other thing. Remember we talked about why is the novel called James?
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end he becomes almost a mythological figure. where he's going to be a story after that. People are going to be telling the story about James.
People are talking about him.
They're going to be like, where he says it. That's like one of the last lines of the book is, my name's James.
He's going to be remembered.
I'm the angel of death. So I'm a sign, he says. I'm a sign.
Right. So listen, I understand the emotional part of being like, I want these people to get theirs.
So like I said, for me, one of the most fulfilling parts is the revenge, retribution.
But making him
this is a
killer
modern. It doesn't make sense in Huckleberry Finn's times. But this is 2024. Let's be real. 2024. People want a revenge story. People want a retribution story. This is true. Look at all the things he wants.
I still rated it high.
Yes, it is good. It is.
I still rated it high. Don't take my
attack on
the ending, or like I said, I didn't say that I hated it. I said I was at the beginning. I said I was unsure about it. I said that I didn't know how I felt about it. I feel questions.
I feel this book
I don't think
could have been written from somebody a few years after this.
Oh wow!
In a different, in a less violent perspective, you're saying. I feel somebody.
You feel like it needs to have that.
No, because there was after the end of the Civil War, there was literally senators. There was more than educated black people in America to write a book of higher of like you say, school book level that it feels like you're reading a school. But this is a very modern take on it. I'm saying.
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Does this modern day writing change your perception of this book?
No, because I feel they are.
This was 1880s.
Yeah,
written
because
time in the 1830s.
You always have to think
satirically.
Of
this was written last year.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm saying, like you got to.
Well, they're gonna have
of the time.
Difference.
You got to think of the time.
Does this change your point of view of Huckleberry Finn?
No, because
most of
the people that were involved in this were probably dead before any civil rights or anything, so they didn't even understand the progression of any of this. This is very much from a modern perspective of, like I say, a retribution, kind of a little bit of revenge story at the end, which is a very shocker once it starts getting into his rage builds up, and then he sees Hopkins by himself away from his party. He's like, he's drunk. I'm just gonna fucking kill him. And then at the end, he frees his family, and then burns the.
I didn't want him to feel bad for any, slaveholders or people that raped slaves, or I didn't want him to feel bad.
They definitely make you want to hate that guy though. Or the people before they murder him. There's a deliberate point in the writing. Right. Like I say,
I don't necessarily
spit
want
on
that
your
for Jim,
grave
though,
because
kind of where I'm at.
Well, because in Huckleberry Finn, there's not much talk about raping slaves and stuff. It's
of course not. No.
It's a very much
that's where
Sammy.
That's where my question was going.
Isn't Katie also raped too?
Yeah,
there's two
characters we meet that it happens
characters that are raped.
Which the concept is it happens so often.
Yeah.
That in this book, it's norm. It's you don't
even talk about it because it's so.
We don't talk about it. Yeah, it happens. It happens. So we don't even question.
But also, it's a child's perspective, so he doesn't really like. I don't know if he even perceives
that's where my question. That's an original. I guess that's what my question was going at. Like, does your perspective, because this was written last year, this was written in the 1880s, like, are the stories different? Is the perspective of the text different?
Yeah.
We don't.
Yeah.
In 1880, when Mark Twain wrote this book, raping slaves when you're a master, that's totally the norm. So even if you're writing it satirically, in this time, you're going to read it as probably someone in the early 1900s.
That's what I was going back to.
And you're going to be like, oh, okay.
That happened. To sway to even like
that happened. It's okay.
Lightly talk about these subjects to Southerners. You have to put it from a child's perspective and not talk about the brutality of rape, the brutality of beating a slave and killing a slave. That's why this book is like, it's written the way it is, because he's like, I can't write it.
It's such a product of its time.
Abrasive. I have to write
it's such a product of its time.
It is a product of its time, but also he's like
they both are.
I need to,
like you said, the ending is the way it is because that is what
people want now.
It's not necessarily that, but to me, I go back and forth on this. It's like that ending of having Jim kill is the emotional. I don't know. It was like it's a weird punctuation for the story because you do want, as someone who might feel like a modern day black man might feel some anger towards the system even currently, and being able to go, no, I don't want him to be meek. I want him to be, I'm taking this shit into my hands. So yes, I understand that. I just feel like it derails. It's hard for me to, okay, if you're going to build it up, I can suspend my disbelief on a lot of this stuff, okay? It's a retelling. It's supposed to be a little bit funny. It's supposed to be whatever. There's an issue here where you've built this character up to be, okay, I understand that he might be actually the smartest person in the room, wherever he is. Yeah. He's very intelligent. There's, they explain that over and over. This is somebody who hallucinates philosophers and historical figures. He gets knocked out because he gets knocked out 20 fucking times in this.
From a snake bite, from a hit,
a million times, from the river, almost drowning. Yeah, people are getting knocked out constantly, right? But he always he talks to Voltaire. He talks to John Locke. You have a list there of some other people he talks to. Yeah. So this is not the behavior of somebody that. No, you're telling me. If I'm being shown that this character is intelligent, and I like how it does, and I do feel like James is quite intelligent, and then he goes, oh, well, I'm having these philosophical discussions when I'm woozy and I'm getting knocked out. That's kind of weird. I have kind of an issue with that also, because he can be the smartest person in the room and not have this weird stuff with Voltaire. Mm-hmm. I don't know what I'm a little unsure about what the point of it is, but then to have that character do that, and then to I don't want to say gleefully, but readily kill is a bit of it. It doesn't add up for the character they've written so far. It doesn't fit for me. It feels like something out of character for Jim. Mm-hmm. In the way that I read this novel, I was like, that didn't seem like something he would do. I can see if they'd written a situation where a couple of the slaves go and hang one of them, and he doesn't stop them. Okay, being okay with the death is okay, but him actually doing it was a bit much for me personally. Clearly you loved it.
I don't think dumbing down Jim's character because he has hallucinations of old school philosophers makes him a dumber character. There's no way.
I didn't say dumber.
Okay. Gotcha.
I said killing made him seem dumber. Because he does that. They made him seem hyper intelligent, not just intelligent.
Gotcha. Do you think that
his action at the end doesn't match what was written for him? If he was written as this person that hallucinates historical figures and he has conversations with John Locke, and then to go from that to be like, I'm now a beefcake Arnold Schwarzenegger or whatever kind of action hero at the end, is a fucking turnaround, and it doesn't fit for the character that they built. I'm okay with him, but it's weird.
Do you feel like his hallucinations?
It's weird. I didn't like it.
Do you feel like his hallucinations justify what he does at the end versus the people that take advantage of him? Do you think they even have hallucinations at all of those characters?
No, probably not.
No, they're probably, say that again?
Probably the people that he killed don't have hallucinations of high poets of past.
James is aware enough to have hallucinations of historical characters throughout the context of the book. Right.
I would question it.
He's dreaming.
I'm okay. Look,
he's dreaming of John Locke. He's dreaming of Voltaire.
When he writes these stories,
Daniel Decatur.
I'm okay with him being the smartest guy in the room. You sold it to me. I can buy it. as an audience member, as a reader, I can look at that and go, all right, I'm gonna just accept that Jim is the smartest guy in the room. But why does it have to be that he gets knocked out and then he fucking talks to Voltaire? It doesn't make any sense. But that's fucking silly.
To me,
I still like this book a lot, guys. I'm just saying.
No.
You gotta admit, that's fucking weird.
This whole book is a fucking fever dream. It's crazy. It is hallucinations. It's
a black man in a minstrel show.
A black man in
yeah.
There are
you might be right.
If you start looking at it from, well, this doesn't make sense. What makes sense about this well-educated slave from the beginning who is literally teaching from the beginning? I was like, okay, this is gonna be a wild ride. When he starts telling his kids and the other kids, like,
he's grooming his kids how to live in society, man.
This is how you talk to white people. You don't speak proper English because we all speak proper English. I was like, what the fuck? He's like,
it is unusual.
Yes,
like I said, that's more acceptable than him talking to philosophers.
But then it's
being like,
but then it starts going. The first thing when he first gets bit, he does starts like hallucinating.
It does set up that he's been stealing books.
He talks
or he
about
goes
it
and
more.
reads. He hides.
He talks about it.
He's highly educated. No, he's super smart. His hallucinations are not quote unquote like trippy hallucinations, man. They're well thought out. In my opinion, they're well thought out dreams.
Yeah.
They're well thought out. Like
when he tells the fantasy dream to the white man, he's like, "We thought we was in New Orleans on the streets. Are they really gold? Oh, there's whiskey running down the streets, but I had to go back because I didn't have any money. And I told him, you can't go anywhere with money." That's what they think.
When he blackfaces,
uneducated black man really dreams, and that's what he's hallucinating.
When he blackfaces to sing in the minstrels,
actually, that's part of the writing is that he's so educated that his dreams aren't, oh, what does whiskey taste like? His dreams of, what does Voltaire have to tell to me? What does, like, his dreams are definitely elevated. That's definitely part of the writing. You can say that's, like, something that maybe, like, turned you off. But there was definitely intentional part of the writing.
I still rated this high. So, again,
yeah.
I bought it. For sure.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. I was like, okay, I can accept that.
Yeah.
But that's why the ending feels like a rug pull.
Like a change.
It felt like it wasn't the character they'd made already.
Yeah.
Which, don't get me wrong, I'm like, if I go, all right, I'm just gonna accept it. I want Jim to hold a guy up with a gun and be like, him be confused, not that I'm pointing a gun at him, but that I'm using regular language.
Yeah, but
that's like
the character.
That's great.
The character we're raised to believe in Huck Finn, again, even though it was written in a satirical point of view, was written in the late 1800s. 50 years later after when it was intended to be. So it was still in a very, very fresh mindset of these guys are smart.
Almost 150 years.
It's
now we're now
140 years in between Huck Finn's publication and James. 140 years.
Yeah.
It's insane.
That's kind of crazy.
That's a giant leap in society.
Yeah.
A giant leap in society.
A tremendous. So I would I still love it. I love it.
No,
it's a good book. It's a good book.
I rated it 4.75. I loved it.
Very modern
It's
read.
just not perfect because I had some I was like that some of it seems off.
Yes.
Maybe it went over my head.
Honestly, if you start looking at the character development of modern books versus older books, it's changing. It's developing. And you look at the character development of even older books, it gets crazy. Like, you get from a great epic to
I'm not in my assessment of reading this novel, I'm not comparing it to Huck Finn.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, what did I read? What happened in this story? What happened with character development? What happened with...
I read it so different.
I'm not attaching it to some significance to the original text.
Man, I read it so different. I read it so different. I read it as a complete comparison to Huck Finn.
Yeah.
I read it so different.
Unfortunately, I did because I had already read...
And I read Tom Sawyer
I hope every child has to read Huck Finn in school still. I hope they still make you
I hope
do
so,
that.
yeah.
But anyways,
They definitely will not.
They
Not
definitely
today.
will
Not today.
Not today.
You can definitely pick it up on your own.
Yeah. But the hope is that at a base literature, if you even start reading, is one of the classics. And this is like the most crazy DLC of a video game, if you would like to compare it.
Sure.
It is this story just in a crazy mindset, and if you start looking at it that way, that's why it became more acceptable for the crazy changes from, like you say, if you start like, okay, Jim is now very light skinned, and then he's working with a guy who's very light skinned, who's actually a black man, who's working as a white man to do a minstrel show. That's crazy.
It's wild.
That's wild. Jim being secretly smarter than pretty much everybody who's trying to trade him into slave, into another slave trade, every single corner. That is crazy. Like, it's a crazy read. It's a very interesting read. It's a very modern.
It almost reads like a South Park episode.
It's a very modern read. It is
the
like
progression
I said,
of the books is a South Park episode. The progression of the books is a fucking South Park episode. If you start with Tom Sawyer, very childish, right? The most scandalous thing they get into is the Becky Thatcher thing, where they go into it. They go into their teacher's cabinet, get a textbook that's scandalous, and they observe it. Whoa, right? Honestly, you read Tom Sawyer, it's a very childish thing. From Tom Sawyer...
It's for kids, yeah.
It's for kids. So Tom Sawyer, you get into something that's more like scandalous and realistic. What was Tom Sawyer's like controversial buddy? Was Huck Finn, right? So you read the adventures of Huck Finn, it gets a little more realistic. You're like, oh, cool. We got a kid that's, very, very blue collar, very, very, not as Tom Sawyer, doesn't need to create his own adventures because he's struggling. He's got a very shithead dad, right?
Yeah.
Like,
he's like white trash. He's white trash even in the 1800s.
He's trailer park trash.
Yeah, he was white trash even then.
He's trailer park trash for the 1800s, exactly, right? So we read Huck Finn, you're like, man, compared to like Tom Sawyer, Huck Finn, wow, this is a little more real, but it's still kind of childish. It's they're still taking an adventure down the river. There's still some more reality towards it. There's still some more struggle towards it, right? Mm-hmm. With Jim in it. Cool. So we go from Tom Sawyer, which is a very childish, like coming of age type of like adventure story, to what was written in the 1880s. Huck Finn, which is like, oh, this is a little more realistic. This is a little more, like, let's take notice of slavery a little bit more.
Yeah.
Right? This is now written in the 1880s versus 100, just like you said, 150 years now. You got this guy written, and it's like, whoa, wow. You have the character that was completely made fun of and thought of to be a completely, literally like how they wrote it in the 1880s, a piece of property, someone that doesn't have a voice, talks slow, can't read.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things is that the fact that it's been 6 generations since the writing of these books, and is in 6 generations, like how Jim says, he's like, it doesn't matter how many times you've had children with a white person, as long as they find out, as long as they know that you've got a little bit of black in you, you're still a slave. And it's like, and a lot of the perspective is from a modern, light-skinned black person.
It's wild.
It is crazy because that is like, this book is definitely not even trying to connect with a black person.
No.
If a black person reads this, it's like, how do I even connect with this?
But
it connects with a southern white person, but this book connects 6 generations later to even someone who has white lineage and has black lineage, because you're now connected, because you may think you're like he says, you're so thinned out, but you're still You may not think it now because it doesn't matter, but if you were to look 140 years ago, you're a black person.
Was Samuel Clemens not trying to connect with everybody writing this book, but he just couldn't because of he was a product of his time? I mean, fuck, man. He was not endorsing slavery. Yeah. He was not endorsing keeping poor people down.
Yeah.
At all in this book. He was promoting equality as much as he possibly could.
As much as he can.
In that time. Yeah. It's just hard to see it.
It's just,
Versus this book where you just see it. It's just in your face like, hey, this is where society should be going, more or less.
Yeah.
Well, and I think another thing I thought about when reading this was that James is still, he might be the smartest person in the room, but he's still subject to the system.
Oh, yeah.
He plays the system so well.
He's so afraid of it.
He knows it.
He
knows it.
He works it, but he's afraid of it.
And that's something I think was integral to Mr. Everett's thoughts on race, was his experience with that. Because it reads to me like some of this stuff... Okay, do you think... do you know what Percival Everett looks like?
I've seen a
he's
a
lighter skinned guy. So
he's not super light, but he is light skinned.
Yeah, he's
I feel he writes James even lighter. He writes James
lighter.
He writes James as, like he says, a step above the passable Huckleberry Finn who doesn't even know.
Right. So I think he did that. There's definitely, you're supposed to make the connection that since Everett himself is lighter skinned, that he's working through some of his hangups through Jim. That's at least what my perception of this was. Yeah. Was that when he made the creative decision to go, well, I'm going to make Jim lighter skinned. Because that's more interesting to go, well, he's still black, so I can still have all of that stuff, but then I can comment on being a lighter-skinned black person, too.
Yeah.
So that was a really smart choice for the interest I had in this, because if they just made him a clearly black person, and not having the light-skinned angle, it would have cut some of the interest in what his experience is in half. Yeah, because you don't have that other thing of like, well, yeah, I'm still kind of light-skinned.
Yeah, there's some great films, literature pieces on racial integration, and to the point of it being like, being so close to the divide, but still,
as though any of this shit matters.
But
people are just fucking isn't that crazy? People are just people.
Yeah, people are just people.
Like,
and
we're going, are you darker than me? Is so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Jeez, right? Like, the fact that we still need to talk about this stuff is wild.
That is, but it is crazy. This book is still relevant. That's why this book is...
this story is relevant?
It is a winner because of... I don't want to say because it's different, but it's not a standalone. It's not a standalone. It's an altercation. He works off of a great masterpiece, and I want to say that because I do love Huckleberry Finn. It is people can shit on it, people can ban it. I think it still proves its point.
I hope it's not banned.
At its time, I think it definitely proved its point. I think even years past proved its point of a change in views. It's a very historical turning point, I think, in literature. This is like a crazy modern classic that you would not think going back at this time when there was such segregation and racism, and now this is an absolute classic. Like, you would not think that. And I think this book is amazing And you could read this separate, but I think it is definitely a altercation, maybe like a divergence of this original. You could not do this, James, without the original Huckleberry Finn. You need that whole story, because I haven't read Percival Everett's separate work, but this is the bread and butter, basically, the Huckleberry Finn kind of backstory, but he changes it into a very interesting dynamic, like changing it completely into James' story instead of Huckleberry Finn. But he doesn't completely change away from the original kind of goal of the original author of crazy idea.
If you wrote this story
in some other like a random story,
and it would not been Huck, and
had it not been
like,
Huck,
it
would not. But with Huck, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Seriously, if like he used different characters and it was like its own story.
Its own story.
You
could read it on its own. I will say that.
I would still enjoy it, man. Honestly.
I would still enjoy it, but the fact that he did that is
he could have written a runaway slave story.
That's what I'm saying, like a runaway slave story.
Would it be a prize winner? I don't think so, because it's just so crazy.
It definitely needs the context.
It needs a crazy comparison. Needs that crazy contrast.
But
everything about Huck Finn.
Like, here, read this, and it wasn't connected to Huck Finn. It was just like a runaway slave story. And you read it, and it was like a black person going into a minstrel show and whatever, undercover, weirdly, and getting revenge on slave owners and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I think, you could find a compelling story in that. You don't necessarily need it, but I do think it is better because it's a companion piece. I do like it that it's Huck. I do like that it's, I think the beginning couple of lines are like, these little bastards are messing with me again. It's something like that.
Yeah.
And he's talking about Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn, how they were always like mess with him. Because you do think about that when you read Huck Finn, that they fuck with him.
Mm-hmm. All the time.
Yeah, and so it's like the first thing they say, because he's like, all right, what is the first thing they're gonna think if I do this? Oh, how does Jim feel about how they fuck with him? And it's the first thing that it's mentioned.
Yeah.
And he contextualizes it like, oh, yeah, I forget sometimes that Huck's still a kid. He needs to play right now. There's a line like that in there. So,
it's like a routine.
Well, it's very much, it comes from like the fatherhood angle.
Yeah.
It comes from the...
Like, I have to allow him to do this so he can, like, grow a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weirdly stupid thing. I know exactly what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Like, let this kid be immature as fuck so that I can see him grow. But I have to allow that to happen, even though I know it's stupid as fuck.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're saying. It's dumb as fuck.
Because if it was another white dude, that he wouldn't let that happen.
Like, it's whitewashing. As you can, like...
Yeah, it definitely needs the concept of being on top of Mark Twain's shoulders. How do they say shoulder of giants or something? There's some saying.
Piggybacking.
Yeah, so, it kind of needs it to elevate this.
It is a piggyback story that is the king of piggyback stories.
So
I will
it's
say,
amazing.
I will
this
say,
is a really good
I will
book,
say
dude.
of a modernization of an upgrade, a upplay of this specific character in the story of James is amazing. Just picking him out. Great work from the author.
100%.
He chose somebody who you wouldn't even think, because this person is so
dumbed down in this book.
Dehumanized. Like, and this whole book is about kind of humanizing him, making him, and how the author puts that is more than just being smarter. He does do the violent thing. He does. I don't know if that's a modern take on it, and just being like, well, you need to get redemption, you need to get like a satisfaction, the kind of kill, strike back on the people that are present. He doesn't. I don't think he actually takes it out on the people that have sold and bought him, because he doesn't get the lady that tries to sell him and eventually sells his wife and daughter, right?
Am I mistaken? Doesn't she die?
How did she?
Isn't it like her? It's in her last will and testament to free him. That's what I understand,
yeah.
right?
But how did she die?
I don't. Being old as fuck. I don't know.
But was that in both? Was that in Huck Finn?
I don't think he mentions it in James. I thought
it was
remember.
only in
Yeah, but I mean, you're supposed to kind of know that.
Yeah,
that's
but I
right.
thought they changed it in James to where they're like, they don't make her a nice. I signed your, you're gonna be free. It's just like
in James, she's kind of villainified.
Yeah, in James, they're like, well, why did she sell you? She's like, because that's what white people do. Like, they never.
She does what people would do if they owned slaves.
Oh yeah, it was like.
So yeah, he's obviously gonna see that as.
Yeah, but isn't there another slave owner at the end of James who takes the someone is beaten or hurt, and the slave owner of that person is like, okay, well you'll help me out while that person is injured. What is
I don't remember. The detail is escaping me.
Yeah, but I mean, even in James, there's like a I guess a good perspective of white people or potential slave owner, or like when he's brought into the minstrel show, he's like, he was surprised of how well he was taken care of, and how
well, again, and then it's undercut by that concept of, well, as soon as I wasn't playing ball, they turned into assholes.
Yes.
So again, there's that. I feel like that's very personal to Everett.
Yeah.
Where he may have been in a situation where he was maybe through publication or whatever. Something was happening, and as soon as, being involved in business with somebody and then feeling like, well, they got me by the balls. And here's the thing. So yeah, I think it's, again, this feels very personal, and I think it definitely lends itself to, we talked about seeing them not only as companion pieces but their own thing. I think part of unless I got this wrong, I'm pretty sure that is in the public domain. I think Huck Finn is in the public domain. I think anybody can
100%
use it.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. I think anybody can use it.
Okay. I think it's after 125 years. I'm not mistaken.
Well, I think it depends on who, if the estate decides to...
No, Mickey Mouse is completely, and Winnie the Pooh is completely under public domain. It's after...
I don't think Mickey Mouse is public domain.
No, yeah, it is. Winnie the Pooh and Mickey Mouse, they started making dirty stuff recently about them. Like,
let's look into that.
Yeah.
I don't think... Well, let's not do it on camera. But yeah, I think that's part of this too, is going, I want to tell a story.
Oh, because it's out of
because
the
it's public
domain.
So he can just use them. Yeah. I think it's an easy thing to go to.
When was that recent one about Huck's girlfriend? When was that? Was that a while ago?
I didn't write that note down, but I think it's like newer.
Okay.
Not 2020-ish newer, but like...
So that's interesting. Yeah.
21st century newer.
I mean,
Huck
had his dad too that helped him out.
Has like full like leaning towards like the Union. I think at the end of James.
Yeah, he says he's gonna join the Union.
Yeah, and like.
Well, what's cool about that is how James steps up as a father, and he's like, he doesn't tell him, if you're gonna join the Union. He like lets him figure out. Yeah. Himself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, well, what do you think?
Yeah.
I want to travel up north and go.
Yeah, and he's like, well, yeah, I guess owning people fucking sucks. So, yeah, I'm going to fight for them.
The Huck Finn, from transition from the original Mark Twain to the James, I think definitely gives him a more adult ending. Does he say the same thing as in the end of Mark Twain? I think at the end of Mark Twain's, he kind of just heads back home.
Yeah, I don't remember I'm joining the Union line.
Yeah, he kind of heads back home. And
maybe I'm getting that wrong, but I don't remember that.
I believe he's in the good grace of having some sort of money or
In
retribution.
the end of in Huck Finn, yeah, he just goes back home, man.
Yeah, he gets like a sense of
He gets an entitlement.
Yeah, he gets an entitlement,
which is brought up in James, which he says he just straight up just gave away anyway. He said he never really took his entitlement. It was like a $6,000 entitlement.
Oh, in James, but
Yeah.
in Huck Finn, he kind of goes back and is more like settled in as a white person.
We learned that he's hesitant about it.
In James, he's like...
We learned that he's hesitant. In the first, 3 chapters of James, we learned that he's so hesitant about being a schoolboy, being...
Yeah.
Conformed.
He's like, oh, they treat me nice, but they make me go to school.
I don't like this.
Yeah,
yeah.
In
he doesn't like it.
Finn.
Yeah.
James and Dean is I think a very shocking... the last few lines are great.
Oh, dude, it's definitely fun.
It's fun.
It's not what you expect.
For the guy,
it's definitely not
what you expect.
Yeah, no, he's like,
100%.
Nothing about this guy was big. Falls down, blood spatters on his chest. Very whoa. If this was made...
Well, you see he's seen how much violence.
I can't wait for this to be made in a series, but if you do see it and you don't even read the book, you're going to be
if they did
shocked.
You're
going to be shocked at the end by the last maybe
for sure
1 or 2...
The Boondocks guys would make it. Remember that show?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they'd have to do it absurd. They'd have to do it absurd. Because this is, even though it's talking on some deep shit, it's...
comedic.
It's comedic. It's
Oh,
talking about real shit through humor and through levity and having the idea that you can have that ending is kind of absurd. And
the whole menstrual, the Duke, all of that, I think it's a very comedic.
Well, he steals the idea of being like, oh, you can just sell me as a slave from before, which is because he heard it before, and then he tells. I don't remember, but Norman or somebody, he's like, you can just do it to me. And he steals it as his own idea, which I think
it's a real thing, man. That was a real thing back in the day.
Yeah.
Well, right, but it's absurd.
But then he actually gets sold and then gets beaten and sees someone get raped. So it's pretty bad.
And that's how you. It's almost we did Jeremy and I did Clockwork Orange, and in Clockwork Orange, that kind of they almost take these really violent, horrible actions, and by the language, they make it kind of funny.
Yeah.
They soften it through humor, and I feel like he's doing that here. I think you'll have these really funny moments, and then it'll be punctuated with an act of violence, or the inclusion of Sammy, where she's 15, and he puts it together immediately. Oh, her owner rapes her.
Yeah.
He's like, do you want to come with me? Let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
So it's like it's everything you said. A revenge fantasy, this thing. So yeah, that's why it's still rated high for me. I did kind of have criticisms, but cool. Fuck it. Why can't that be a thing? Have him fucking strangle a guy and shoot a guy. Fuck it. Why can't Jim do that?
Yeah.
Of course.
I think we fit the end of the video, guys. Let's shut this bad boy down. What do you think?
All right. Yeah, definitely read this book.
It's a 5 out of 5 in my eyes.
I think it is definitely something that needs to be transferred to some sort of other media.
Oh, dude, let's watch a movie of this, dude.
I cannot wait.
I'll watch that.
If it comes out in a couple years, I will definitely watch whatever it comes out in. But
it would be like Jordan Peele doing it.
If Chadwick Boseman was still alive,
hey,
just saying.
Chadwick Boseman.
Black Panther.
I don't think
just
Chadwick Boseman
Black Panther as Jim
is light enough for James.
As James.
Oh, sorry.
As James. Not as Jim. As James.
I think they're going to choose a very light-skinned...
Michael B. Jordan's too dark.
Probably for
Terrence Howard.
It's been a couple years.
Terrence Howard is on the edge.
Jonathan Majors is there, man. It's been a couple years.
Hey, we gotta give
Jesse Smollett.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, what was the guy that faked the attack?
Yeah, they'll probably
Dude, that would be his comeback.
That's what
Jesse Smollett.
Jesse Smollett will play James. But definitely read this book. It is a amazing
It's a good book. It's a great book.
It's a fucking fantastic. Guys, read this fucking book.
Please read this book.
Everyone's gonna read it. It's gaining popularity. It's gaining traction. It's winning awards. Read this book. Be in the know. It's fucking badass. It's a good book, guys.
It's a quick listen on the audiobook too. It's only 7
hours.
hours.
Put it on while you're driving to work, doing your bullshit. On that note, guys, we're gonna get out of here. I think we're gonna discuss what we're gonna do next. But man, this was a fucking fun book, man. Get on it. We're gonna get out of here. Thank you so much for joining us. We had a great time. We're gonna have the boys back. Leave some comments, leave some likes, subscribe if you wish. Tell us what we're gonna do next. What should we drink next? I don't know. Yeah. But thank you so much, guys. We'll see you on the next one.